Good morning, Molly Murder Mittens. How are you doing, sweetie? Aw, good girl. So it's the last day of the year, or at least you guys are watching this video on the last day of the year. It's actually a couple days before the last day of the year when I'm recording this. And admittedly, it has been quite a year. I mean, think about it. The spot that I'm standing in right now, last year at this time, used to house this little old decrepit shed or barn building. And when you look at it now, even though you can't really tell because it's covered in snow, it's now the finished foundation for a brand new barn that's gonna be coming in early next year. You know, quite honestly, it's milestones like that that really make me happy here on this farm. Because as we've now gone through 5 seasons of farming here at Goldshaw Farm, I realize now that so much of what all of this is all about is the progress and progression you make and those little steps and milestones that don't seem significant at the moment, but when you look back 365 days later, they seem absolutely massive. Good morning, large white farm dogs. How are you guys doing, huh? Good to see you guys. Come on out. Hi, sweetie. How's it going? Hey, buddy boy. How are you? It's a frosty one this morning. We're checking in at about, I don't know, 14 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Don't wander. I know you like to pee on everything, but once you get back into the farmyard, come on. Both dogs inside, let's go. So I'm gonna have to try to go to the farm store today because last night as I was locking everybody up, I went to go turn the electric top wire back on and this thing just snapped because of the cold on the plastic. So yeah, my electric fence is not on right now. Oh, Toby snuck out. Watch, he's gonna go pee right by the cows. All right, bud, you can have your moment. How's it going, Annabelle? And I just fed them some fresh hay this morning. How are you doing, Bonnie McMurray? Good to see you, Ariel. Linda Carlisle, Amanda Hug and Kiss. Yeah, all of my cattle are doing really well right now. I also need to actually go to the farm supply store and get some more cattle panels to help with the separation of the calves from the adults so I can actually do a weaning. But that's gonna be a video you guys see in the new year. Today's video is all about wrapping up the loose ends from this year. Come on, Tobes, let's go. We gotta get chores going. I can hear the birds yelling at us already. You know, one way you can tell that we haven't really gotten any fresh snow since last week, you start to see the dog marks show up. You know, watch out where the Maremas go and don't you eat that yellow snow. My wife Allison seems to think it's an eyesore. I think it's just a way to show that our farm is well guarded by dogs. You know, I always personally find that week between Christmas and New Year's an interesting one. It's this combination of celebration, relaxation, taking stock of what you've done over the year, as well as trying to figure out what do you want to try to do with yourself in the new year. And while I spend a lot of this time often hanging out with family and friends, I also spend a lot of this time kind of writing in my little notebooks various things, trying to take the stuff inside my head and put it out. And so even as I was thinking about what I wanted to say in today's video, I was very much in my own head last night, trying to really articulate my feelings about 2022 here on the farm. You know, this year was really an important year for our farm. It was very much a milestone. Back in January, I quit my day job just so I could focus on the farm and making videos for you guys full time. And it was absolutely the best decision I ever made. The amount of stress that I had in my life shrunk dramatically. The amount of time that I spend doing the things I love increased exponentially. And all in all, I definitely was wondering and asking myself, why didn't I do it sooner? And when I take honest stock and try to answer that question, the realization I have is that it was because of fear. I was afraid things weren't gonna work out. I was afraid I was gonna fail. I was afraid that I'd end up having to crawl back to the place that I came from. And really now, 12 months later, I can happily report to you guys that those fears were unfounded and things are ending up in a very good place. Good morning, birds! I mean, just think about it. A year ago, this space was like 1/3 the size and not nearly as well built. And taking care of birds in the winter has gotten much easier. That to me is one of those differences that just a simple year can make. Ever since we got the big snow, the birds really haven't ventured too much further back there. They really enjoy just being able to stay in the coop. To reduce the amount of mess, I still keep their water outside. But for the past few days, I've been feeding them inside. Probably starting tomorrow, though, I think I'm gonna start putting their food outside again, just to keep encouraging them to move around. But I feel like this space right here is such a good example of one of the biggest lessons I learned this year around being comfortable with iteration. And even if you run into failure, be being able to take stock, learn from that failure, and improve. You know, it was in 2022, in the other side of winter, back, I think it was like February or March, when I came out here and discovered that the hoop coop was ripped to shreds. The original hoop coop, not this one. And the feeling of failure and defeat that I had, just one of those things that wanted to make me shove my head down into a hole, entirely stop recording videos about my farm, dust off my resume, and go crawling back to the world of life insurance. But as you guys are aware, I did not do that, and I kept up with things. I figured out what I did wrong with the previous iteration. I did some research and found a better way to build the structure. I made improvements that actually helped my workflow and how I manage the animals. I got over my fear of asking for help and got help from friends to build this. And I was able to move forward and I was able to improve. And while I feel like we made a host of improvements around the farm this year, whether it's things like the hoop coop or all the progress I was eventually able to make with Abby and her training, or being able to jam a bucket underneath one of my beef cows and get a glass of milk, all of those things were improvements, and none of those things could have happened if I hadn't admitted my own failures. And for me personally, that's what growth looks like. Because I wasn't always the type of person who could admit those failures. I would usually be so concerned with what other people thought of me and looking good and not looking like an idiot and not looking like a failure that I would gloss over my failures with others, or even worse, I'd gloss over my own failures with myself.
They must have some weird chickens.
Okay, Barneys, I know you're hungry. I'll get you some food. Calm down, you guys, calm down.
Oh, cat fight.
I'm gonna feed everybody. There's more than enough food for all the cats. These guys are starting to really jockey for Barn Cat of the Year, even though probably only a couple hours left in the competition. Pablo, I'm gonna put you down here so you and Molly don't fight. So yeah, that Barn Cat of the Year competition is gonna be something you have to look for early in 2023. So yeah, like I said earlier in this video, the thing that kept me from quitting my day job sooner was I was afraid of failure. And I now know that's a fear that I need to work past. Because I now know that failure is not something to be feared, but it's something to be embraced. And I know I've talked about this topic before, and I know I've said I've embraced failure before, but as I really been thinking about it lately, I'm realizing I have even more room and more space to embrace that failure for myself. Because if I look at what's happened to me over the past 365 days, I feel like it's been an evolution, a positive evolution, that's been fueled by embracing failure. It's been fueled by taking risks. It's been fueled by putting myself out there. And as I look at the year that I've had here, I'm feeling pretty darn good about it. Now, that's not to say things are perfect. That's not to say that I won't fail, and I haven't failed, and I'm not mad about the way certain things have gone. But it is to say that I think it is the factor that has made the difference for me. Did you guys look at these little cow paths that they make? You know, they don't go all through the snow. They make some well-worn paths, just like their people, and they'll go up and down those paths. You know, that's a behavior that you see in farm animals, and that's actually a behavior that you see in wild animals too. You know, the other day I was actually looking at some aerial video of the farm, and it was pretty recently after a fresh snowfall, and what was cool is you could see the animal tracks going through the pasture to say where the deer and the coyotes wander, and like you could actually see the path where they were. Yeah, you're a good girl there, Annabelle. So I don't know where you are or what you're doing as you watch this video right now. Heck, you might not even be watching, you might just be listening. But regardless of that situation, as you're sitting there thinking about what your next 365 days are gonna look like, just keep in mind that you might fail. And if you do, that's okay. And what you really should do is embrace it, because it's gonna put you in a better place. Isn't that right, Joey Ramone? Yeah. And also, don't get hung up on the magic of dates. You know, it really doesn't matter if the date is December 31st or January 1st or May 14th. What you really need to be focused on is those next 365 days, and how do you make a difference, and how do you move closer to the things that you want to move closer to? What fears do you need to get past? What failures you want to work through? And where do you dream of ending up? Because if you can figure those things out, you're gonna find yourself in a pretty incredible place. Ariel, you want some more? Okay. Good girl, good girl. These are some good cows I got here. Yes. And you're a good steer, buddy. And that's the end of the video.